Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Whitney Van Laningham, and this year's Stranger Things Day, aka November 6th, the day Will Byers first vanished in 1983, brought with it a couple of hints for the final season of the series. Not only did Netflix bless us with a brand new poster for me to break down, they also surprised fans by adding Stranger Things character avatars to their personalized settings menu, and by dropping the first episode title of Season 5. But there are a couple of very important details that stood out to me in these seemingly innocent promotional materials. So today, I'm going to break down some of the visual details dropped on Twitter and explain why I think Stranger Things is already teasing Eddie Munson's resurrection and return. This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for building your brand. More on them later. To start, let's check out the official Stranger Things Day poster. It's chock full of references to the first 4 seasons. Most of them are pretty recognizable, so I'll just list them quickly. We've got the trash can shield, signs for the arcade and Hawkins High School, a rainbow that represents Brenner's Rainbow Room experiments, the Hellfire Club's t-shirt, Steve's nail-ridden baseball bat, both of Dustin's hats, and Lucas's basketball and slingshot. We've also got a walkie-talkie, Farrah Fawcett hairspray, Max's skateboard, one of the boys' bicycles, Eddie's guitar, Max's Walkman and cassettes, Vecna's clock, and the sign for Benny's Burgers. Next, there's the Hawkins Power and Light van, aka the Shell Corporation posing as an electric company to cover up the experiments subjected to Eleven and her siblings. Below the van's wheel, there's a floating Coke can, the stained glass rose doorway from the Creel house, and a D20. Here we see one of the flyers that Tina handed out for her Halloween party in Season 2, the ghost trap from Dustin's Ghostbusters costume, Hopper's police badge, the Starcourt Mall's neon sign, a box of Eggos, and a Ships Ahoy uniform hat. Front and center of the poster is a copy of Will Byers' missing poster from the first season, Will the Wise's wizard hat, Will's Mind Flayer drawing from Season 2, and the makeshift blackout goggles the kids made for Eleven out of a Surfer Boy pizza box. Like I said, most of those details are pretty easy to spot for the average Stranger Things fan. But here's where the poster goes deeper. See all those tentacles from the Upside Down snaking their way around certain items? If you look closely, you'll notice that these squiddly guys are only wrapped around the items that belong to the people who have been taken by the Upside Down. At the bottom of the poster, the tentacles don't curl themselves around the Ships Ahoy hat, the Eggos, the ghost trap, or the Surfer Boy goggles, but they do entangle themselves around Will's missing poster, his drawing, and his wizard hat. These vines are also wrapped around Eddie's guitar, the clock, Max's Walkman, Steve's baseball bat, and the trash can lid, all items that eventually travel to the realm that lies beneath our own. But the most interesting tentacle, in my opinion, is the one bursting out of the top of the Hellfire Club t-shirt. This is the first clue that tells me that Eddie might come back as a member of Vecna's army in Season 5. The way that the tentacle is shooting straight through the neck of this shirt makes me think that we may see a practical variation of that exact situation on screen. My theory is that Eddie will return as a member of Vecna's army, perhaps even as the Stranger Things version of the D&D character Cass. But let me explain myself first, and then I'll come back to Cass in a second. I really think that bringing Eddie back as the right-hand man of the series' big bad is the logical conclusion in the aftermath of Season 4. For starters, Joseph Quinn's character was absolutely a fan favorite. Seriously, you still cannot log on to twitter.com without seeing a bunch of Eddie Munson superfans. And I'm one of them! Do you know how many people will lose their shit if he returns? Netflix wants your money, baby, and they know that Joseph Quinn will bring in those sweet, sweet views. Second of all, we also know that Vecna and the Mind Flayer love turning human victims into the flayed, using their all-consuming powers to force these poor folks to carry out their destructive deeds. Just look at what happened to Billy and the other people who got infected in Season 3. And now that the Upside Down's dark parallel reality is rapidly leaking into Hawkins, it'll be all too easy for him to use Eddie to capture even more servants. Thirdly, we also learn this season that Eleven has the power to bring a person back to life from the brink of death. When Max is killed by Vecna, she manages to reverse the damage enough to place her in a comatose state instead. The last time we saw her, she was actively working to help bring Max back to reality inside her consciousness, which gives me the hope that she'll wake up in Season 5. Because L and 1's powers are so similar, I believe that Vecna also has the power to resurrect Eddie in the Upside Down. I'm a thankful kind of person. I'm thankful for big things like the existence of dogs, and I'm thankful for the small things like websites that are easy to use and look cool. It's not in my power to just snap my fingers and put more pugs out there into the world, but thanks to Squarespace, anybody can put up a good-looking website. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform, and it makes it easy to create, update, and maintain a beautiful online presence for your business. You don't want your website looking like something that was hard-coded into HTML back in 1998. You want it looking and functioning like the cream of the 2022 crop, and Squarespace can help you do that. Squarespace has a bunch of of great features to help your business be successful. You can present members-only gated content, create email campaigns, or add online booking for appointments or sessions, all from the Squarespace interface. My favorite aspect is the analytics section. That's where Squarespace makes it easy to dig into what's working and what's not, and figure out what levers you can pull to make your business even more successful. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/newrockstars to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/newrockstars for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Now let's look at why I think Eddie could resurrect a Stranger Things' variation of Cass the Bloody-Handed. If you don't spend every waking hour of your free time playing Dungeons & Dragons, congratulations, what's that like? Here's what's up with the character. Cass was Vecna's most loyal lieutenant and wielder of the Sword of Cass, a sentient all-black longsword. Although Hopper was technically the one with an actual sword last season, the spear that Eddie takes to battle is a close alternative. Also, the song that Eddie plays before his untimely death, Master of Puppets by Metallica, could be a hint that he will become Vecna's literal puppet, carrying out his bidding at the beginning of next season. After years of servitude to Vecna, the sword itself actually whispers to Cass, convincing him to betray his master. After usurping Vecna's power, Cass is thrown across Vecna's citadel Cavitus on the Plain of Ash, where he develops vampiric powers and changes his name to Cass the Destroyer. I don't think I need to remind you guys, but Eddie Munson is associated with bat imagery in Stranger Things. Not only does he have a flock of bats tattooed on his forearm, he's also slain by demobats in the Upside Down after fighting them off with his makeshift sword and shield. And while I don't think that Eddie is actually gonna come back to life as a blood-sucking vamp, I do think that these symbols could be a subtle nod to Cass's D&D lore. More likely, in my opinion, is that Eddie will come back as a Mind Flayer zombie hybrid, initially working for Vecna before ultimately betraying him. After all, he is a huge fan of Iron Maiden, and their zombie mascot Eddie would be a perfect parallel to our favorite heavy metal team. Vecna could totally use his reanimated corpse to terrorize his former friends. When Vecna managed to escape the Citadel Cavitus in D&D, both realms were destroyed, sending Cass's soul to survive outside of time and space, with the new ability to lend his powers to Binders. Binders are a D&D class with the ability to host the powers that a chosen vestige held in life, and it could make sense to have something similar happen in Stranger Things 5. We could see Eddie displaced if Hawkins and the Upside Down fall to 11's souped-up powers. I'm not completely sold on the idea that they'll suspend Eddie's soul in limbo for eternity, because that would be an even crueler send-off than when he was partially devoured by demobats. But I do think that, like Cass, he will absolutely use his pseudo-zombie powers to betray Vecna, which will in turn allow 11 to hit that a-hole with her best shot. Next, let's talk about those brand new Netflix avatars. You'll notice that each of them has a different background color, indicating which group they're a part of. The purple squares show the Hawkins gang, the yellow squares feature the California crew, and Team Hopper, Joyce, and Murray have blue squares. Standing apart from the rest is Vecna's teal square. But here's where it gets interesting. At first glance, I almost didn't notice that Eddie's avatar also had a background color, because his long, beautiful locks are taking up most of the square. But in the upper right-hand corner, you can see a tiny triangle of teal peeking through, the same color as Vecna's. To me personally, this is a huge sign that Eddie will return on Vecna's side, at least in the beginning of the season. If these colorful squares delineate which team each character is a part of, it's clear to me that Eddie will be Team Vecna to start. Like I've already said like 3 times, I believe that he'll redeem himself by the end of the series by betraying his puppet master. And that brings me to the final bit of noteworthy news from Stranger Things Day. We now know that the first episode of Season 5 is titled The Crawl, which has a ton of possible meanings. Could this be a dungeon crawl episode where our Hawkins heroes will have to navigate their way through a labyrinth of Vecna's design, solving puzzles, avoiding traps, and combating with demo beasts? Could the party return to the Upside Down to retrieve Eddie's body, only to find him stationed as Vecna's new lieutenant? Or will we literally see Eddie's corpse crawl out of the parallel realm and into Hawkins in his zombified form? Personally, I think those scenarios are all equally possible, although I am leaning more towards The Crawl as a badass dungeon crawl ep. But what do you guys think? Will Eddie return as Vecna's servant? Will he rebel against authority like the metalhead he is? Or will his corpse simply rot in the Upside Down until someone decides to throw him a funeral? Let me know in the comments below. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Whitney Puppy, follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love, and thanks for watching. Bye!